from the Prairie Sportsman Studios. Presented by OnX. Know where you stand with OnX. We're not just a radio show anymore. Heck yeah. This is Sporting Journal Radio.
That's right. Welcome to the show. We got a good one for you this week. I'm Bret Amundson. Thank you for tuning in on the network or by downloading the podcast wherever you get your favorite podcasts, or maybe you're watching this on YouTube. Please like it. Subscribe to us, share it with your friends, because we got a good show. We're going to talk a lot of waterfowl with Thomas Hoke Outdoors on YouTube. He's got a YouTube channel that has all sorts of waterfowl content on it. Plus, he works with DRC Calls and Corey Loeffler up in northwest Minnesota. So we're going to talk a little bit about working with Corey, what that's like, and talk about some of his kayak hunting adventures. In fact, this is part one of a two-part series with Thomas. We'll have Thomas this week and next week here on the show. We've also got Ben Brettingen from OnX coming up this week. He's going to talk about planning hunting trips, because here we are, Dan. That's Dan Amundson over there, by the way. Dan, how you doing?
Hey, doing well.
It is. It's the last month of the hunting season.
Yeah, and we're still in Alaska, even though you're watching us here.
Yeah,
soak that one in.
I'm not ready for it to be over like every year, so I think we'll have to extend our season a little bit with some trips. Maybe some South Dakota pheasant trips or somewhere down south. I know Ben Brettingen travels all over after the season's here, and we'll get some tips from him on traveling for hunting trips. And man, going down south, like he hunts down where there's a lot of cacti, and how you deal with that with your dogs. I mean, trying to stop your dog from running through a bunch of cactuses has got to be next to impossible. So he deals with that, we'll talk to Ben about that. And if you want to take a winter trip to the Northwest Angle this year for ice fishing up at Lake of the Woods, Joe Henry has got all the details on how you can do that coming up this week. Dan, who are the sponsors?
This week we have OnX. Know where you stand with OnX Hunt at onxhunt.com. Lake of the Woods Tourism. Lake of the Woods is the walleye capital. Plan a trip for this winter at Lake of the Woods, mn.com. Live Target. Match the hatch at livetargetlures.com. Haybell Heights Campground and Resort. Book a trip to Devil's Lake at haybellheights.com. Eau Claire Audio. Save your hearing in the field with Eau Claire. Learn more at eauclaire.com. Ottertail Lakes Country. Find your inner otter this winter at ottertaillakescountry.com. And Prairie Sportsman, the new season starts in January, but you can watch episodes anytime at the Prairie Sportsman YouTube channel.
Live Target, the leader in Match the Hatch, is back with new lures that also match the action. Introducing the Live Craw. The Live Craw is irresistible to bass, walleye, and other freshwater species. FTech's winner, the Ultimate Frog, looks and acts just like a swimming frog. With an exposed ultra-point mustad hook and replaceable legs, the Ultimate Frog has 2 styles, 2 sizes, and 8 colors. And iCast and FTech's winner, the Live Shrimp, mimics a fleeing shrimp for saltwater anglers. Coming soon from Live Target. It's ice fishing season and time to plan your trip to Riverbend Resort on Lake of the Woods. Stay at the Lakeside Resort along the Rainy River in one of their new cabins and enjoy delicious meals and hot or cold beverages in the Miles Lab Bar and Grill. Or stay in one of their comfortable sleeper houses on the ice, complete with a TV, stove, and lots of walleyes right beneath your feet. You also have the option of staying at their motel, the Walleye Inn, located in Bret. Book your ice fishing trip to famous Lake of the Woods today at riverbendresort.com. That's riverbendresort.com. Well, late season is the best season, if you ask me, particularly when it comes to pheasant hunting. Man, I love pheasant hunting later in the year, December. I know some people, you run into birds that have been hunted, so they get a little bit warier throughout the year as it gets later and later. But they tend to be concentrated in the thicker cover. You can find them if you're willing to put the work in. Sometimes you're trudging through snow. Sometimes you're not. But it's my favorite time to go. Ben Brettingen from OnX is going to join us now to talk more about late season hunting. And then once our season ends here, what it's like to plan a trip to go out of state. Ben, how you doing?
I'm fantastic.
Is it pheasant time for you? Have you put the grouse away, or do you still plan on chasing grouse a little bit?
No, it is. It's full on pheasants now, and then start to transition into some quail and other things. But yeah, for me, this is time to hunt pheasants because a lot of people are, they're hanging up their stuff, they're thinking about ice fishing, and this is prime time to chase pheasants.
That's just it. And I know most of the time later in the year, a lot of times you get, especially public land, to yourself. particularly if we've had some snow or some bad weather. But I noticed some of these milder winters we've had the last couple of years, I've had to compete with guys the last week of the season out there. So I think the message is getting out that late season can be pretty good, especially if it's a little bit warmer out.
Well, it's going to be awful this year. So
everybody else stay home. Just stay home. So when it comes to late season pheasants, Ben, do you have spots that you just tend to kind of migrate to, or will you open up your laptop, pull open OnX and say, hey, that looks like that's the kind of cover that I can find birds in late season. I'm going to go try to hunt that this year.
Yeah, I'm always trying to find new spots. I will go back and hunt some of the spots that I just know are proven performers, but a lot of the times I'm going to different areas and you can always find more spots, right? So what I kind of do is I am envisioning, I'll look at a spot where it's like, okay, this is a really good spot, and try to break down the components of why that's a good spot. So for example, a lot of the times they're going to be keyed in on cattails. It's just great thermal cover. Love hanging out in there, but then with that, you also need a food source. So a lot of the times I'm going to be looking for that thick cover, whether it's cattails or, just like native prairie. But the thing about when you're looking at grass is if it snowed, those cattails hold up a lot better to snow than grass. You could have grass in October that's chest high. You get one snow and it's not going to hold a bird. So a lot of times cattails next to a good food source. You can look at shelter belts, that kind of thing. Again, just providing that thermal cover, that protection against, the elements, whether it's wind, snow, etc. And then find those that'll, join together. Then I'll just keep picking around on the computer and say, okay, this one looks good, and mark all those spots. And then, before you know it, you have a laundry list of different areas you can go and check out.
I've been using the tree species layer on OnX a lot more lately, and I think that'd be a great one to use for looking for that thermal cover for late season pheasant hunting.
Yeah, for sure. If I like to, it's a little bit more rare probably in your neck of the woods, but find those cedar belts and that kind of thing. It can make for some fantastic hunting.
And this year, everything being so dry, those cattail sloughs, it was kind of a badge of honor for me if I came back and dumped my rubber boots up, tipped my rubber boots upside down and just had water pouring out of them, because I knew I was going places. Any time of year, you got to go where the other people won't go. And late season, particularly, I'm breaking through ice all the time. And I don't think I'll have to do that this year, Ben.
It's not looking like it. It's pretty dang dry out there. But, that means that, if you get some warm spells, we're not getting, we're not getting ice, snow, etc. You don't have to wait for it to freeze up to get out and hunt those areas.
Have you ever taken a boat to pheasant hunt?
I'm trying to think here. I did in South Dakota, actually, on the Missouri River. Just trying to access some core land, not because of ice or anything, but that was a pretty cool hunt.
Yeah, I think I've seen a TV show about that, actually.
I think
maybe the Flush.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
How did it go? Did you shoot some birds?
Oh yeah, it was really good. Just areas that you could get to it by walking, but you'd have to walk like 5 miles.
Oh yeah.
Versus just a 10-minute boat ride. If it was windy, it would be like I'd probably never get their boat ride, but thankfully that day was pretty calm. So
I like the 10-minute versus the 5-mile walk. Way better. Yeah. But I will say this. I was just telling somebody about this the other day. Like, pheasant hunting, to me, part of the reason I enjoy it so much is because of the exercise and the walking that you do, and not just the cardio that you get out of it, but the enjoyment of doing it with your dog or dogs, and then just seeing parts of the world that other people don't see, and seeing the wildlife, that inhabit those places. Those are some of the, I went on a walk the other day, and I ended up in a place I'd never walked in that piece before, and I ended up coming into an area that I was just like blown away by the wildness of it, and it was so cool to be in that moment. Well, I don't even remember if I shot pheasants back there or not, but and I don't want to say hey, when someone says, let's go on a hike, I just like hiking's not really for me, but the hiking is probably what I enjoy about pheasant hunting the most, just because you end up in some really cool places when you're out there.
Yeah, 100%. Well, I'll start off by saying I hate exercising. So
Yeah.
like I call it hiking. I call walking without a purpose.
Right. That's right. Yeah.
But you throw dogs in there and then it instantly changes. I'll go hike wherever you want to. I don't call it hiking because I hate that word.
Right.
I'll call it dog training.
That's dog training. That's right. Getting them in shape for the season.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no, I love it. Like it's my gym because I can't go to the gym. I just can't do it. I've tried. I don't like it. I don't like the exercise. I don't like working out. But man, yeah, you give me an orange vest and throw a shotgun in my hand and I get to watch my dog run in circles in front of me. It's you can't beat it.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden you racked up 15 miles and some consider that the E word.
Yeah, don't tell me that. Don't tell me that. Well, I love doing it so much, and I have yet to go over and take advantage of the extended season in South Dakota in January, but I know kind of trying to work on planning a trip over there this year, would like to try it out. And then one of these years, I'm going to get to Kansas or Montana or somewhere and do, kind of extend my upland season a little bit. I've traveled for waterfowl in January and February and March and April and May, actually, but never done it for upland other than, maybe that first week. I know we talked about it a little bit last year, but if somebody was going to say, hey, Ben, I want to take a trip. I want to do something once the pheasant season closes here. I want to take a trip somewhere. What are you going to tell them about where to go and how to plan for it?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's a nice thing. Like we're done in December here. So there's, a whole other month that up here, unless you're out ice fishing, it's cold, nasty. You got a bunch of snow up here. Like you said, you can go to South Dakota. If you want to go chase more pheasants, I tell people go to South Dakota, especially the further west you go, the more temperate it gets. You're not going to get those cold temperatures. You'll get a lot of the times in January, I've been out there in 50, 60 degree days where it's just downright nice. So, but what I tell a lot of people is go to Nebraska, Kansas, Oklahoma, and go chase quail. We can chase pheasants up here for 2.5 months. So go do something different. And that's why I love, if I'm going to go to Kansas or Nebraska, a lot of the times, I'll run into an incidental pheasant or something like that. But a lot of the time I'm chasing bob whites, and that's just a super fun trip. Right now Kansas is a little spotty. They've had some moisture issues, but it's actually hurt the pheasant population more than I've heard it's hurt the quail. So I'm looking forward to getting down there and chasing after bob whites. This is probably a little bit more extreme, but heck, you can head. I've got a trip where I'm going out to Idaho and western Montana, and we're going to go chase after chucker and Hungarian partridge.
Oh boy.
Quail out there, so that'll be an interesting one. That I might need some more of the E word.
Well, yeah. So chucker, like growing up, my experience with chucker was, oh yeah, that's the extra bird you get sometimes at a game. That guys will shoot at a game farm. And then when you hear about chasing them in the wild, like you're putting on miles and you're going straight up a lot of times for those birds.
Yeah, I've never done it before, so I don't know what to expect, to be honest, but I can just put one foot in front of the other, and as long as the dogs are in shape, I'll make them do most of the work.
Yeah, that's the beauty of having dogs. That's why you get the dogs, right?
Yeah, exactly.
They go through the thick stuff and the hard stuff.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so quail hunting, I would like to do it this year. I've never actually been on a real quail hunt. Never really targeted them, gone out of state to go after them. What should I expect? What do I need to bring?
Well, it's a fairly simple hunt. I mean, pretty much everything that you need for pheasant hunting, get for quail. The nice thing is generally walking for quail is going to be a heck of a lot easier, as they prefer a lot more open bare ground versus pheasants where it's got to be thick essentially. So if you're walking in pheasant cover, that's not going to be good quail cover. We recorded a master class back in October through OnX with Chad Love. and Andy Edwards of Quail Forever, and we went through and broke down some great information about how to find new quail spots, as well as we put out a video that'll be on the Pheasants and Quail Forever YouTube channel that you'll be able to watch. That'll show a late season hunt from Kansas last year and kind of how we went and picked apart cover and what good cover looks like. So those are two great resources to kind of go out and just, if you're driving down from Minnesota or the Midwest here, make it a little bit more obtainable, make it easier to find those birds.
Are you shooting like 7.5s at them, or what, 6s? What are you shooting at these birds?
Yeah, so if I'm going after specifically quail, I know it's like this is pretty much a quail spot. Yeah, I'll shoot. You can shoot trap loads at them, 7.5s. I shoot Boss number 7s, 2 3/4. The nice thing is you'll be able to do that. I'll shoot 6s, Boss 6s for pheasants and quail. So,
all right. What other trips? What's the furthest you've traveled for an upland hunt?
Oh, I've been down to Arizona. That was a good one. That was about a 24-hour drive. Went and hunt Merns and Gambles down there. That was nice. That was in January. That was actually in February. The season closes like sometime the second week of February, depending on how the days lie. And that was great. I went golfing. It was nice. It was a nice trip for sure. So that's probably the farthest I went. We'll see. This trip out to Idaho will probably be a good 22, 23 hours. So,
did you deal with cactuses at all with your dogs down in Arizona?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. So when I was hunting the Burns stuff, that's a little more gentle. That's rolling hills. You've got these oak savannas, that kind of thing. So that wasn't bad on the dogs. But then when you go down and hunt Gambles, like your traditional desert, you could see the saguaro cactuses and all that kind of stuff. Then I definitely had to have boots on them because they couldn't walk 10 feet without being covered in old cactuses. You've got, they call it jumping cholla and teddy bear cholla and just some nasty stuff. Everything down there wants to poke you or kill you. So,
man, that stuff, that would make me a little bit nervous, but I'll tell you what, I ran my dog through some cattails the other day, and it was also like some old trees or old willows where you see the old dead ones where they're just up a little bit higher than the cattails, and then when you get down into it, a lot of them are broken off at about a foot and a half high, and they're pretty sharp. And Tiny is not a big dog, and a lot of times she's bouncing through all that stuff. I actually kind of pulled her out of there. I was getting a little bit nervous about her bouncing through with those sharp little stumps that sit down in there. Do you run vests or skid plates or any sort? Do you keep them out of cover at all like that for protection?
I don't run any vests or skid plates or anything like that. In those areas, like for example, if you're grouse hunting a lot, some of those early cuts, those new cuts that are, there's a lot of slash in there. That can be super rough on dogs. So I try to, like, if there's an area where there's a bunch of slash, I'll pull them out of there. Just because it's hard on their body, right? You're jumping over logs. There's really no good footing for them. So a lot of potential for injury. There's a lot of those stobs like you were talking about. So I try to avoid those areas, but at the end of the day, you can't prevent their hunting dogs. It's something's going.
Well, thankfully, I got lucky and haven't had any serious injuries with my dogs. But Ben, going back to traveling, I bet having OnX really is key if you're going to travel to new states for a trip like that.
100%. Yeah, it's just going now. I can go with the confidence of knowing that I might not get into the mother load of birds, but at least I can go out. I feel dangerous every time I go out into the field. It's like, well, I've got a chance at getting after them. At least I'm in the right area. I'm hunting on public. I know where to go. Versus before, you think about, a lot of times you didn't take a big trip unless you knew someone that had been out there. You were going with someone that went out there or lives out there. So now, it's like, I want to go hunt chukar. It's like, well, I've got the tools I need with OnX to get me in the right area. So it's just a huge confidence boost when you're taking these out-of-state trips.
Well, good luck in all your adventures the rest of the year. Ben Brettingen from OnX, thanks for being on the show.
Appreciate it.
852 million acres of public land, 147 million private properties, all in the palm of your hand. The #1 hunting GPS app just got better. With hundreds of custom map layers, 3D and topographic maps, you can easily scout on the road or at home before you go. And now you can get important weather details, CWD detection, and even know what crops have been planted where. Get the most trusted hunting GPS app ever made. OnX. Know where you stand with OnX.
Looking for winter adventure? Might as well pick a place with over 1,000 lakes. Ottertail County, Minnesota is in the middle of everywhere, offers a simpler pace, and has something for everyone. Find your inner otter at ottertaillakescountry.com.
All right, once again, we're going to head up to Lake of the Woods, check in with Joe Henry from Lake of the Woods Tourism. Joe, I finally had the chance to go to the Northwest Angle via the road through Manitoba when we did our cast and blast trip up to the Angle to shoot divers out of layout boats earlier this year. You know, prior to that, Joe, I'd been to the Angle twice, only in the wintertime, both times in the wintertime, and by pretty unique ways. And once was across that first year that they built the ice road during the pandemic when the border was closed. They built that ice road, which was so much work and a lot of money. I've got to experience that. And that, I mean, it's a toss up to me, which one was more unique, doing that or taking the snowmobile route 42 miles. And obviously that's been around forever, so that's technically more common, but that's a pretty unique way to get up to the Angle too.
Well, there's a lot of ways to get up the Angle, you know, and the one thing I think was kind of fun is when we shot an episode of Prairie Sports Spin and did the snowmobiles up there, you had a brand new videographer. This was his first project. And we took him out and it was like 25 below zero.
So cool.
And we put him on a snowmobile.
Yeah.
And we took him 42 miles across Lake of the Woods.
Yeah, I remember him getting in the truck afterwards and going, hey guys, what does frostbite look like?
Well, you know, I tell you, when you're going across in those kind of temperatures, if you remember, we really made sure that every part of our skin was covered. And then remember, we would stop about every 5 miles just to check on everybody, make sure everybody's with us, everybody's got the thumbs up on those sleds, and then we'd continue on. But to me, and we had, if you remember, we had Polaris sleds that were real new sleds, so they're very reliable.
They were nice.
You know what? They were super nice. You know, if you remember, though, that was a very enjoyable, memorable trip, taking the sleds across like that. And so there's two ways to get up to up to the Northwest Angle. One way is you can drive up there with your vehicle. Now, if you drive up to the Northwest Angle, you have to drive about 40 miles through Canada up the western side, and then you enter back into Minnesota up at the Northwest Angle. Now, that means that you have to have, you know, a passport card, or like an enhanced Minnesota driver's license. And other than that, you really don't need much. You don't need a COVID test anymore. You don't need to use the ArriveCan app anymore. However, you can if you like to use it. If you already have it set up, it's easy. But they've really lifted the restrictions of going up there now. So driving up to Canada is really cool. I think the other thing that's neat about going to Canada is I always tell my friends and family, like, okay, when you're driving up to the Northwest Angle, you're going to go through a little town of Sprague, Manitoba. Yeah. You know, they have a little grocery store there, Carl and Kay's Fine Foods. And, you know, you go in there and now they got the different things you can only get in Canada. The Coffee Crisp candy bar, the English toffee, the different kinds of Canadian jams, the Canadian rye bread that's made at these famous Winnipeg bakeries. You can only get it in that geographical region of Canada. It's kind of like a cracked wheat, but those are things that are unique. You know, it's like when in Rome, eat as the Romans, right? A lot of people will stop there and bring that up on their trip to the Angle. And then, of course, when you get up there, it's kind of cool too, because if you're going to stay at an angle inlet resort for ice fishing, you drive right to the resort and you're at home base. You're ready to roll. Now, if you're staying at an island resort, they have ice roads up at the northwest angle. Now, the ice roads up there are really meant for just simply transportation to the island resorts. They don't have ice roads up at the angle that you fish off of. They're meant strictly for transporting to your island resort. Now, they have them nice and groomed and plowed and marked and all that jazz. So no problem there. Or if, sometimes people might stay at one resort and want to go have a drink at another resort or have dinner at another resort, you can certainly do that as well. But so that's when you drive up there. Now, the second way is the way we were talking about, Brett, where you can stay in Minnesota and you don't need any credentials at all. Take a snowmobile cross. It's a groomed, staked, state-made snowmobile trail, 42 miles across the lake. There's one that goes up the east side of the lake. There's one that goes up the west side of the lake. So got lots of options as far as snowmobiling up there. And then, of course, if you're snowmobiling up, if you're using your sled for ice fishing and transportation reasons, and you're good to go. If you feel like you want to mix it up a little bit and do some snowmobiling when you're up there, there's some beautiful trails up there. There's beautiful trails on the south end of Lake of the Woods as well. So a second way to get up there is the Lake of the Woods passenger service.
Hey, Joe, can we just back up one second? Do you remember the ice chunks that year when we drove up on that trail?
It was incredible. Remember, it was like mountains of ice shooting up into the sky. How high were some of those?
15, 20 feet. I mean, I just kicked myself we had everything packed up so tightly for that snowmobile trip that we didn't have any cameras. I think we maybe had a GoPro out or something, but the GoPro battery kept dying and we didn't get any footage. It was like driving through the dark crystal or something. Like it was crazy weaving in and out of these giant shards of ice sticking up into the air. It was a pretty wild experience.
Well, what had happened is, and every year is different on Lake of the Woods. I mean, this is a big body of water, but what happened is the lake froze. So let's say you had 4 or 5 inches of ice, maybe 4 inches, I suppose. And we had incredible winds and part of the lake was open. So all that force took that ice and pushed that ice on top of one another. And it just kept pushing up in the air and up in the air. And so there was like minefields. So normally when you head up there, that trail is straight as can be. And you can just whistle right through it, almost like a highway. In this case, we were weaving back and forth. They had to put the snowmobile trail in between these ice shards. It was almost like being on the moon or something. It was just like a surreal experience. Gorgeous, treacherous. I mean, for somebody that wanted to be a cowboy or cowgirl and not pay attention and go flying with a snowmobile, you're getting yourself in big trouble because there's these ice shards everywhere. But when you followed the trail, you were just fine, but you had to go slower.
Yeah, if you got off that trail, there's a good chance you were hitting a big piece of ice. So we stayed on it. It was a cool trip. And it was 25 below zero or something coming back. So we didn't stop to take in the sights other than what we saw as we were driving by them. But it was a neat experience. Caught a lot of fish up there, and then taking some of the trails through the angle up there was a pretty neat experience. So I mean, Lake of the Woods, Joe, gets and the angle for that matter, they get all the attention for the fishing, but there's always so many other things you can do up there.
It's beautiful. Yeah, you go up there, it just feels different. I mean, the final, I mentioned that if you want to go up there and avoid customs, I mentioned snowmobiling, I mentioned the passenger service with bomber service. But the other one is you can fly up there and you can land on the ice, a fly-in to the northwest angle. And I've done it. It's incredible. If you fly from the south end of Lake of the Woods, it's 15 minutes. They also fly from South St. Paul. They have custom trips where they'll fly you from any Midwest city, and fly your group up there and land right on the ice if you want. I mean, Brett, that is a cool way. And I'll tell you, to see the different groups of fish houses and the expanse of ice from the air really gives you a very different perspective. It's also really cool seeing when you're flying over a group of fish houses, to see how the resorts have plowed the roads and what kind of grid. It's also cool just looking at the snowmobile trails. It's like you're looking down at the snowmobile trails, almost like you're looking at a map on a computer screen or on your phone. It's just a very different perspective. And then, of course, landing on the ice, doing that thing. Here's the other thing that's interesting about going to the angle is that all the resorts up there, you don't drive to your fish house. They don't have roads for ice fishing up there. Like I said, it's all for going to your resort. They take you via bombardiers, or different kind of ice transportation. They haul you to your fish house. So they haul you there in the morning. You catch fish all day long. The ice guides check in there throughout the day, and at about 4:30 or give or take, they pick you up and bring you back in for happy hour. So it's really kind of a neat experience. You're going to be fishing a lot more structure up at the Northwest Angle. That's where the Canadian Shield really begins. That's where we talk about the 14,552 islands on Lake of the Woods, and they actually begin right about at the Northwest Angle. So consequently, when you get up there and you're fishing, you might be fishing deep mud. But oftentimes, if you're fishing deep mud, you'll be fishing off a rock pile. You might be fishing the base of a rock pile. You might be fishing on top of a rock pile. I got to tell you, last winter I had some of the best fishing I ever had, and they were fishing off of an underwater point. And this was a low light. I mean, it was an early late spot, right? So we'd get there in the morning and we just whacked fish, and then around 10 o'clock it'd die, and it would die until about 3 o'clock, and then it would start picking up again. We caught so many fish. But during the day, that would not have been a good spot. So we went back to the resort. We ended up, I think we did some filming, and we had lunch and just did some different things, and then went back out in the evening. Kind of a cool trip. I'd never done that before, where I fished just the morning, just the evening. But otherwise, on a normal situation, you're going to be out there and you're going to be getting your morning bite. You'll get some afternoon takers, and then it'll fire up again in the evening. And the other thing you'll notice is that when you go up there, your percentage of walleyes versus saugers will be much higher. I think it's because of the different kind of structure up there. Real good chance you'll whack a big pike while you're fishing walleyes, just because there's a lot of pike up there. You get your jumbos, you get your eel pout. It's just a very very interesting area amongst the islands to be fishing.
Yeah, it's pretty neat. I like it. And I think my next trip up there, I think I'm going to take that Lake Country Air plane ride to get up there. I want to experience that and see what it's all about. All right, Joe, if people want to learn more about getting up to the Northwest Angle or the Rainy River or the Lake of the Woods in general, where should they go?
Check out our website, and that is lakeofthewoodsmn.com.
Come ice fish the famous waters of Minnesota's Lake of the Woods, the walleye capital of the world. Experience full-service resorts featuring heated fish houses, ice transportation, meal plans, and sleeper house options. From the Northwest Angle to the South Shore, Rainy River, and Baudette, the Midwest's #1 ice fishing destination. Walleye, sauger, perch, and northern pike. Minnesota's Lake of the Woods, best fishing anywhere. For more information, log on to lakeofthewoodsmn.com.
Ice fishing season is here. This winter, plan a trip to Devils Lake, North Dakota. Not only will you have the chance to catch their legendary perch, but this year, Haybale Heights has been catching big walleye after big walleye. And they're doing it from a mobile, comfortable snow bear. No matter how cold it is outside, you're warm and toasty on the inside. Learn more and book a trip today at haybaleheights.com. That's haybaleheights.com. All right, this is Sporting Journal Radio. I'm Bret Amundson. Thanks for tuning in on the network by demand, or maybe you're watching this on YouTube. Thank you very much. That's Dan Amundson right over there. Dan, how you doing?
Hey.
This week we actually hosted somebody at the house for a couple of days.
Yeah, we have another in-studio guest. This is a rarity. I think third ever.
Yeah.
Tom Landwehr. David doesn't count. David's wife counts, though. Lindsay was here.
So it's David's wife, the former DNR commissioner of Minnesota, and now Thomas Hogue. Ladies and gentlemen, Thomas Hogue.
Sounds like I'm in good company there.
How you doing?
Good. Just finished up a little chilly evening goose hunt, but migrators are rolling, so can't complain about that.
So you got just a little bit of a southern accent there. It's not real heavy, but you've been spending a lot of time in Minnesota. Did you lose some of your Virginian accent, or is there just not much of an accent there?
I don't think I lost much. I don't think I had much to begin with. I'm just not really. It's weird. Like you go an hour south of where I'm from, and there's a real southern draw down there, but the area that I'm from, no one really has much of a draw at all. So I don't think I've lost much, but hopefully I'll never have the full-on Minnesota accent. I'd like to still have a little bit of a drawl in there, even if I do spend some more time up here.
I mean, after living basically with Corey Loeffler for a couple of years, I'm surprised you don't have a quasi-Minnesota Canadian Virginian accent all rolled into one.
That'd be a weird one. That'd be a really weird one. But I'm probably getting there. I'm probably, it's going to be such a slow transition that I'm not going to notice. But when I go back home for Christmas or something, everybody's going to be looking at me funny. So, yeah, I'm probably getting there.
So, Hoke Outdoors on YouTube, and you've been working with Corey, DRC Call Company. Do you got anything else you want to put out there that you do?
No, that's basically it. I'm really happy. Just kind of splitting time between those two things, and getting to work for DRC the last couple of years has been a dream come true. So it's been really fun, and look forward to hopefully continuing it.
You have a good following on YouTube. How long have you had your channel?
8 years now, I guess. I've had the channel. I started it the day before opening day of dove season in 2014, and didn't really get into it until like my senior year of high school. That's where I really started filming videos. I got a little bit better editing, so had some more time for that. But had it for 8 years now, which, gosh, that sounds like it's a lot longer time than I feel like I've been making videos for.
It doesn't get any better either. What made you decide to do a YouTube channel?
Well, back in, right when I started it, I just bought a GoPro. I think I walked into Walmart or something. I had $150, $200 burning a hole in my pocket. It was right after, summer. I'd been mowing lawns, watering gardens, doing all sorts of stuff all summer. I had a little bit of money burning a hole in my pocket. It's like, I'll buy a GoPro. I'll start a YouTube channel. I'd seen, the hunting, people were starting to post kind of hunting videos on YouTube. Up to that point, it was pretty much all just kill shot montages, the loudest, heaviest rock music you could put on there, cranked to 10, and then as many kill shots as you could put in there. But I kind of wanted to make videos that encompassed the whole hunt. It wasn't just the kill shot. I'd seen some people dabbling with that, so that was the reason that I really wanted to get into it. And then come my senior year of high school, I got my driver's license, and I didn't really grow up waterfowl hunting. I grew up deer hunting. My dad's big into deer hunting. Did a good bit of turkey hunting, but never really. We'd go out for a couple goose hunts every year down at one of his friends' places, but not much duck hunting. So I got my driver's license and kind of went out, bought a kayak, and hit the water as many times as I could that year, and tried to film as much as I could, and kind of been running from there ever since.
So explain to our listeners and viewers here what your channel is all about. What will they see there?
It's mainly waterfowl hunting. I try to branch out outside of it and, do some fishing stuff, some other sort of hunting content. But waterfowl hunting is what I live for. I mean, I'd say I'm a waterfowl hunting addict. During the months that you can waterfowl hunt, it's pretty much all that I think about. So that's kind of the bread and butter, and I try and film a variety of different waterfowl hunting videos. I try and really do it all. I think that's one of my favorite things about waterfowl hunting is there's so many different birds you can hunt, and there's so many different ways you can hunt them. So my goal is just to get out and hunt as many different birds in as many different ways as I can, and show the whole process, everything that goes into the hunt itself, and then also try and show some cooking, some what goes on after the hunt, cooking, cleaning, all that sort of stuff.
You came down here with a kayak, and I mean, we've definitely hunted out of boats and canoes and sneak boats, a lot of sneak boat stuff. Haven't done a lot of the kayak stuff, and the time of year that you decided to come down, everything pretty much froze up except for kind of the major rivers or major waterways, but pretty much everything was pretty locked up. So when you said you were going to come down here and hunt out of a kayak, I mean, we all thought it was kind of cool and also kind of crazy.
Yeah. I think I get a good bit of that, and honestly, I'm still on the fence. I don't know if I have a lot of confidence with the kayak, and I know I have a lot of confidence with the kayak. I do a lot of crazy stuff with the kayak, but I don't know if it's dumb or if I'm just crazy enough that I get away with it. On the first day I was down here, I floated 3 miles of river all by myself in 15-degree weather, and I mean, I'd say that's pretty crazy. Not something that your average guy is going to do, but I love the adventure of it. Getting on the kayak is the ultimate adventure to me, and every time I'm able to get out, especially floating a river in a kayak, there's something really special about it, because especially if it's a new stretch of river, you never know what's around the next turn. The next turn there's some suspense behind it. And we were actually talking about pheasant. We've been pheasant hunting this week, and we were talking about the dog working with pheasant hunting and how much suspense there is there when you see the dog getting birdie. And it's that same sort of feeling. That's why I love it. There's something magical about watching 20, 30 mallards hover down over a decoy spread, but there's also something really fun and interesting about floating a river in a kayak, and I've kind of grown to love it.
as you were describing that, I was thinking about how I was going to compare that to pheasant hunting, and then you just did it. Like, I mean, like we were both going down the same path.
He's coming for your job.
Yeah, because you're right, and I was thinking about that when we field hunt or hunt a water spread or whatever, we are sitting in one place basically, and you're waiting for the birds to come to you. And one of the things I like about pheasant hunting so much is that you're moving constantly, and you're seeing new places, you're seeing new things, you're seeing other wildlife. You're not just sitting in the same surroundings constantly. You're out there, and I like to tell people when I pheasant hunt, I'm getting into places that I'd never go to without being a pheasant hunter. Yep. And they're places that 99% of the world's population will never step foot in, and they're beautiful places. They're cool landscapes, or you'll bump a deer. Like today, I almost got run over by a deer. Like, how many people can say that they had a deer charging at them at about 6 feet before it decided it didn't want to run over me, which I appreciated. But you get to see things like that, and then you have that anticipatory. The dog is birdie. Something's going to happen. Is the bird going to flush? Is it going to flush in front of the dog? Is it going to be behind? You don't know where it's going to come from. And it is like that when you're coming around a bend, especially on a river you've never been before, never been on before. You don't know what is coming around that next bend. And actually, we used to float rivers growing up. When we would duck hunt, there was a stretch of river that we would do that too. And we'd come up to a bend, and maybe you'd hear a quack, or a whistle from a wood duck or something like that. And you'd have no idea, and you would just get real quiet and try to float that canoe and just get it to spin just a little bit when you're coming around the bend so you can sneak up on them. One time we came around the bend, and there was a sow and 3 cubs there. And all of a sudden we came around the bend, there were 4 black bears right in front of us.
Holy cow.
It was kind of scary. Have you ever run into something, been surprised like that coming around the corner on a river?
I'd say the weirdest thing that comes to mind, and it was kind of sad. We this September we actually came across a deer that I'm pretty sure had blue tongue, EHD. Yeah, it was. It let us float up 5 yards from it. It was right down by the water. And from my understanding, that's kind of typical symptoms. They get that, they get a fever, and they go straight to the water, and that deer is probably dead the next day. But it was kind of interesting to see a deer that would let you get 5 feet from it, but it was definitely, it wasn't in its right mind. So saw that, but no, I don't think I've ever seen a bear. Seen a lot of eagles, a lot of ospreys on the rivers in Virginia, but never a bear quite yet. So maybe have to go do some float hunts in Alaska and see if
there you go.
I can run into a big old brown bear.
Well,
that'd be fun.
Did you ever see that clip of oh gosh, who was it? I'm pretty sure it's what's his name? He was hunting either in the Yukon or Alaska, and they were in a boat and they were floating a river, and they got charged by a brown bear or a grizzly bear or whatever it was. And I think that they were with a guide, so maybe it was the Yukon, and the guide had to shoot. I don't think he shot the bear. I think he shot at the bear and finally scared it off. But it came charging into the water. Oh gosh, that's gonna drive me crazy. But it's I'm pretty sure it's in the intro of a show. We've had him on the show. Fred Eichler. It was Fred Eichler. He from Colorado. I think he was up hunting, and he got charged by in a boat, like a grizzly bear charging out into the river in your boat. Man, yeah, I don't want to go. And in that sow with the 3 cubs, we were really worried about it because she had the cubs there, and
yeah, what did she end up doing?
I scared her off. She knew it was me. No, I don't remember, but she turned and ran the other way, thankfully, and we didn't have to deal with it. But that float that you did here on your trip down here, you did see a couple of deer along the river, though. Yeah,
I saw quite a few actually. And when I was launching my kayak, Tony was telling me you might be pissing off some deer hunters by doing this. There's going to be a lot of deer hunters down along the river. So I was kind of being very vigilant for that because I didn't have any orange on me. Obviously, I'm trying to sneak up on waterfowl. I'm not going to wear orange. But I was just, trying to keep my eyes up and make sure that I wasn't going to, hug a bank too tight where it might just be some movement that could look like a deer because, just always try to rather be safe than sorry. But I saw, I think, 3 or 4 deer and 1 little buck. So I was kind of surprised to see that. I'm guessing that the deer hunters probably pushed them down towards the river if I had to guess.
All right, I guess this week it's been Thomas Hoke. Thank you very much for watching the show. Thanks, Thomas. We actually have a lot more with Thomas that we will bring you next week right here on this show. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week.
Sporting Journal Radio is a division of Macaba LLC. If you've got a question, comment, or story idea for us, send us an email. Go to sportingjournalradio.com. While you're there, you can learn how to advertise on the show and visit our store for hats, hoodies, coffee mugs, and more. Go to sportingjournalradio.com.